This is Quantum Flow Radio, organizing thought particles into a flow of collective consciousness.
Hello, my friend. There is a new show on the horizon.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
I think it is.
Yeah. And it's coming to you right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
As we sit here.
Yeah. So what's more mysterious than the moon, the sun, and the stars?
Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
Mankind has wondered at all of them
Yes.
for eons.
And we're going to wonder for about the next hour about the sun, the moon, and the stars. The origins,
Yep.
we can only speculate. It was probably here well before us, but it has integral meaning to us, the earth, and our life.
It does.
Probably can't live without them, right?
No, we cannot. The
No.
sun being the giver of life.
Right. So the sun, we'll start off with the sun,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
And as always, we give you some definitions, some word origins, and then we go deep into maybe the meaning and the esoteric meaning, and
Perfect.
maybe speculate what it really is, because this is another big subject, and interesting, by the way. I was always, you couldn't grow up in America and not just be completely mesmerized by everything unfolding, especially in the 60s and the 70s and everything that was being covered, going to the moon and, just all this space exploration and finding out about, the sun and everything. It's just fascinating stuff.
And there was always the Beach Boys.
There was always the Beach Boys. So the sun, they tell us that the sun is the star at the center of the solar system. Big one, right?
Yes.
It's a sphere of hot plasma.
Very hot.
Very
Yeah,
hot.
don't touch that.
No. In fact, I think there is a do not touch sign when you get close.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Kind of hard to read, though.
Right. It's our main source of energy for life here on Earth. Obviously, it sustains all life, plant, animal, and human, right?
Absolutely.
And
mineral.
They claim the sun is 110 approximately times the size of the Earth,
It's a big ball.
which is huge. That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also say it was formed 4.6 billion years ago. How they know that, I have no idea.
Yeah, because you probably, we usually take a piece of wood and sample it and,
Yeah.
But
Well-
kind of hard to do that with a solar flare, I think.
Dating it really, I think, is impossible. But of course, science always has to get their arms around it and give you you put in the information and then you put in the machine and then it spits it out.
Right.
Ding! 4.6 billion years ago.
Right. And there you have it. And it's science.
Okay, and now it's done. We're done. We don't even have to worry about it. I guess if it's science, it's proven fact, right?
Yeah, for now.
For now,
Until it's
tomorrow,
proven differently.
until today.
Yeah.
It's the sun is a source, or as they call it, soul, is a source not only of energy, but also it's integral into the separation of days and helps us with our calendars,
Right.
our months, and everything else. And of course, so does the moon. With back in the day, that's all there was. Without.
And it was important. This is where we get Sunday.
Oh yeah, right.
Moon Day.
Moon Day,
Yeah.
and then the other 5 days.
Yeah, the other gods. Because these
yeah.
were planetary gods at one time.
Right, Vixen and Rudolph. No, those are reindeers. I'm
No,
sorry,
yeah.
these are days, right? Yeah.
These are days.
No, but you're right. Sunday leads off the week, and then Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have a star day.
No, they don't.
They should, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's something we could work on.
Exactly.
We
Add
have-
another day to the week.
We have star
Just what
dates.
people need.
We have star gates, but no star day.
We should have a star day.
I think we
Yeah.
should. All right.
The most intangible thing, even according to the date that the sun was formed, is how far away it is from us.
Yeah.
Do you have any clue? Because
I know it's billions of
well, it's millions, but
years
even so,
or years of
Mi-
whatever.
Well, distance. We're talking distance.
Okay, distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So millions. How many millions of miles? is
Exactly.
this?
Yeah. So
And is it what time of year would that be measured?
Well,
Because that could
again, yeah, and they say it varies because we just don't know.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be spinning and swirling and moving and also at a tilt. I mean, all this stuff is told to us.
Madness, absolute
But
madness.
it is craziness because there is no way as a student could you really even question this. You could question it with common sense, but unless you had a subsequent answer.
Right.
No, teacher, it's not that distance.
Right.
It's this distance. But
Yeah.
they tell us it's 93 million miles away.
Wow.
93 million miles away.
That's a drive.
That is a drive. Think about the average person during their whole lifetime of driving.
Yeah.
Probably never even drives a million miles.
Right.
You'd have to be like a trucker or somebody,
Yeah.
where you're doing it full time and you're putting in, maybe 50,000 miles a year or something like that. But 93 million miles away.
Yeah.
And no gas stations on the way. Well, maybe there are. We don't know.
And no convenience stores.
No, it could be, yeah.
God,
So you got to
really?
really load
No.
up on the snacks.
Yeah, no mocha frappuccinos.
Bring Tang along.
Yeah. So along with these days, just real quick, just to interject.
Yeah.
Because the root words, the etymology of these, Sunday, comes from Day of the Sun. It's an old Middle English phrase. Also in Latin, Dies Solis, which is Day of the Sun. In Greek, Imera Ilio, which means Day of the Sun. Monday is Middle English for Moon Day, like we sort of hinted to earlier, Day of the Moon, and in Latin, Dies Lunae, right?
Right.
And in the ancient Greek, Imera Selines, the Day of the Moon. Now, Selena was the ancient Greek goddess of the moon, so that's where that came from.
You and all your goddesses.
Yeah, I know. It's a
Yeah.
goddess thing.
Hey.
So now some of the other facts that you have
Yeah.
readily available to you.
Yeah, well, as we think we know, the that is really one of the greatest questions. How do we know? How did they measure this? And I don't think it was, maybe they used physics or a really long tape ruler.
Yeah.
But they say
Pinging.
there's,
Ping, ping. See how long it comes back.
right, yeah. They do say that the sun. I don't have a degree of how hot it gets, but it's just
It's pretty hot.
It's pretty darn hot.
Yeah.
Especially if we can feel it this far. And I'm going to get into that too.
Yeah.
Because I
You're
really-
fascinated by this. aren't
Well, I'm sorry. This is a subject I was very much looking forward to.
you? Yeah.
And I hopefully I won't fall short. But I've studied so many different aspects of this topic, finding that I always felt like if we could get to the real truth of all this, how big, the distance, and what they're really, what the purpose is for, other than the obvious, we could figure out some things about who we are.
Yeah.
And figure out what we're living on, because that's ultimately where I'm going to go with this. Not sure if you knew that, but we're going to have to discuss globe versus flat Earth, just to be fair. I mean, we have to give each
Perspective.
a fair. That's what we do here. We always try to treat each side of the story fair. Although it's going to be tough because I do have I'll probably be interjecting some of my own personal stuff.
Personal stuff.
It's going to be tough to sit on the sidelines. That's what it is.
But it's always tough to sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But while you're sitting on the sidelines, though, it's also a much better view at all the other perspectives. So, you're sitting on the sideline, you have your own idea, you have your own concepts of things, but we're a little displaced from the game
Right.
at that point when you're sitting on the bench, and you have a much better view of the other stuff, which is what we try to do. We try to have, a wide spectrum view of what other people are saying and thinking and doing and discovering.
True. And as far as any further facts or anything like that, we don't want to get too scientific or too clinical, because we feel that most people, if you really want to know every little detail, go look it up.
Go look it up.
Go
yeah.
look it up.
Yeah, that's what we
We're
do.
here. We're here for a little more esoteric takeaways.
Yeah.
So through history, the sun has been extremely important. It's been written about. It's in so many aspects of writings, teachings, art,
Symbolism.
symbolism,
Yeah,
everything.
depicted
And-
everywhere.
And this is before kind of modern civilization came into being, because there wasn't much really to go by back then.
No.
You didn't have electronic clocks or anything.
No.
So your day, your night was all guided by the sun, pretty much.
Yeah, until we see ancient hieroglyphs with images of the sun
Right.
carved in rock. We how awesome it was when somebody came up with the sundial.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Our first attempt at time telling.
Exactly. And, you had to put things together and figure out that the sun was moving. And, hey, a clever way of maybe tracking it was a sundial,
Mm-hmm. And I feel sorry for first guy that watched the sun drop into the horizon that night. And, I'm like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
It's gone.
Yeah.
But then
lo and behold,
back
there it
up
was
again
Yeah.
in the morning.
So that cycle was easily determined and easily timed back then because, you were working in the fields, you were harvesting, you were planting, you were, doing that kind of stuff. But you had to do that by way of, the stars and the sun and the moon.
And what's interesting is, you bring up pictures or hieroglyphs of drawings. Typically, the sun, when drawn, especially in any type of artist rendition, if you go back, if the moon was also in the same picture, they were always drawn the same size.
Yeah.
Which they are.
Yeah.
But yet, they tell us they're, completely different sizes and completely different distances from us.
Yeah. In
So
fact,
now-
I read somewhere that the moon, among the ancients, was considered to be actually a larger body
Maybe.
than the sun was.
Let's talk about the moon because that's what's up next.
Okay, let's do this.
Again, the moon, I guess you could call it, it's a permanent natural satellite to the Earth.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just out there.
Appendage without an actual visible connection. It's through the actual field that it's tied into the orbit.
Right. And there's a synchronicity of its supposedly our rotation around it. Again, we're not going to get too scientific, but interestingly enough, the moon was also, how they know this, formed maybe 4.5 billion years ago. So it's 0.5 newer than the sun.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they would know that.
Well, but they couldn't see it when
Until the sun was out.
Yeah.
So that would make sense.
Yeah. So their guess is as good as ours.
But, I'm not sure if the moonlight is necessarily from the sun, and we'll discuss that.
Yeah,
Because
we've
the
had
moon may
some
have,
coffee talks about that.
we have, and we may and this is good because, I find myself always agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to always agree with you. I want my
Right.
own thoughts.
Right.
So we may kind of have different pools of thought on
Which
it.
would be awesome. I always say that I've never learned much from anyone that I totally agree with.
No. And although that comfort level of being around people that you agree with, it's getting, I think it's becoming
Lunatic?
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably a good throw out word for the
Yeah,
situation.
we'll talk about lunatic later too,
Yeah.
since we're on the lunar subject.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's the lunatics come out from the lunar.
Yes.
Yeah.
At
So
night.
it's all connected. Yeah. So we can talk about etymology. So, there is Luna, or actually Mona,
Mhm.
is all part of its origins. But basically,
Now,
the
was
definition.
was
It's Old
Mona,
English,
was that
too.
Sanskrit or that was
Well,
that was Old
Luna,
English?
Luna and lunar is Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Mona aspect of it, I think, is more ties into the month.
Oh yeah,
And that's
okay.
the Old English
Yeah, 'cause
sense,
of the
in that it's
cycles.
a measure. So the moon, the Mona, the month, the measure, all kind of interrelated.
Okay.
And the moon definitely helps us with seasons. How
We just
they
don't
never
know.
they don't tell you.
Yeah.
But they
we don't
say,
know.
oh, without the moon, you'd have no seasons, and the waves would never come in and out.
Yeah.
This is what you learn as a child, and you always appeared to be smart. Oh, yes, the moon has gravitational pull upon the waves,
Right.
and you'd sound real smart and intellectual. And then, when you think about it, why?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's this big object that's just out there.
Yeah, because you hold a magnet down at the down by the beach, and the water
Yeah.
just laughs at it.
It
Says, "No, I'm
does.
not going anywhere."
Yeah, the water is very powerful. I don't think it really is controlled by much.
No,
It's
but you
just-
would think, though, after all these years, that there would be some consortium of real estate developers trying to figure out how to stop the tide from rising. So they
Oh,
could
that's
get
right.
a whole ton of more, waterfront property.
Yeah, the waterfront property, because they're
'cause-
not making any more of that.
No, they're not. It's
No.
done. It's
Well, I
finished.
mean, unless you're in Dubai.
Well, yeah, and then you could just rearrange the Earth,
Well, you're just making more Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. So,
which the Earth will reclaim again and put it where it was originally.
one day,
Yeah.
that city will be underwater. I just hate to say that, but I can just sense that Dubai will be a ancient civilization, not too much maybe different than Atlantis or something else like that.
There'll be people, waiting around with metal detectors trying to see what they could find.
Sure, they
just
probably
under the
find a
water.
lot.
Yeah,
Oh, here's a gold Rolls Royce.
exactly.
Made of gold.
Yep, exactly.
Some people just have more money than they know what to do with. It's
I
just-
know,
Yeah.
but that's for another show.
Yeah, we will be doing money. So, a couple other little interesting tidbits of facts. The moon's distance from us. Okay, it's not 93
It's not 99
million.
billion,
No, it's
million
much
years.
closer, but it's still 239,000 miles away.
Okay.
So, not even a full million. So
Okay.
you can see how much closer. And if you really wanted to measure it, the moon in essence is 400 times closer than the sun is.
To the Earth, yeah.
To the Earth. But
Wow.
they appear to be the same size. Fascinating, huh?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that math matches up, but this is, at any rate,
Perspective again.
I mean, we're just taking these
dimension.
numbers from scientists, and of course, that's just an opinion.
Well, yeah, and we also have to think, well, when's the last time they checked?
Well, yeah. Well, no, they keep moving the distance. It used to be 238,400, and then they changed it to 239.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But if you, yeah.
What a difference
Well,
that
it
makes.
depends on the day and everything too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the other interesting thing is if you're into measurements, the distance to 239,000 is like 30 times the diameter of the Earth, and that's the distance. So you could put 30 Earths between us and the moon.
Okay, that puts
kind
it
of
into
gives you
perspective.
Yeah, it puts it in better perspective. And if you like that measurement better, then there you go.
Yeah. I wonder how many. Well, then that would mean how many Earths are between us and the sun.
A crap load. I mean,
Tons.
tons
Yes.
and tons. Yeah.
Yes.
Again, probably too high to count, just because it's just it's quantifiable, but we just don't have that.
It's just out there.
Yeah, do the math yourself. But the cool thing here is, you can see the moon
Yeah.
with your naked eye, and you can actually see detail. You can't really do that with the sun.
No.
I tried that once. Couldn't see for a day or two.
Yeah.
But they say you'll
That
go
happens.
blind. I can prove to you, you don't go blind looking at the sun.
Yeah.
But you will see some spots and some strange things for a couple
right,
days.
depending on how long you look.
Yeah. The moon is just it's just so fascinating because it's so close.
Yeah.
And you can see the detail, and you can see it with the naked eye.
And the face.
And of course, there's a face,
The man in the moon.
the man on the moon. I think during the very earliest movie where they sent a man to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Funny, in the 1920s, the spaceship looked just like the one in the 1960s.
Isn't that interesting?
It's like they hadn't really, they basically said, "Hey, check out this movie
Yeah.
from 1929," and you know what? We're just, but the spaceship lands in the eye
Yeah.
of the. Do you ever see this movie?
No.
Okay,
But I
Okay.
know which one you're talking about.
It's pre-Buck Rogers.
Pre-Buck Rogers.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
Buck Rogers was the go-to space guy.
Yeah.
Before Star Trek and
Yeah.
Star Wars and everything
Yeah.
else.
I remember discovering the lines that held stuff up while watching that.
The lines.
The strings and cables.
Oh, okay.
that
I
kind of
knew
stuff.
you were going to be funny with it.
But they did the same thing, aluminum foil, shiny stuff, glass, same kind of vessel.
Right. But a coincidence or synchronicity, I mean, of course, we've learned through our awareness
Yeah.
and enlightenment that there really are no coincidences. So everything is syncing up on purpose for a reason.
Yeah.
So moon in the sky is about the same size as the sun.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Yet they're so far different, the distance we're told and the size.
Right.
Yet they just look the same size.
Right.
Isn't that kind of weird?
It is.
Okay.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
Yeah.
Boggles the mind.
It's also mind-boggling to consider all of the radiation that's out there on the way there.
Well, that's what we're told. I mean, you would think that there would be something,
Yeah.
some form of radiation
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So we go and get an X-ray.
Are you talking about the Van Allen belts? Because these are...
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
we go and get an X-ray and they put this lead vest on us, right? And then
Yeah, just
these
to
guys
take
go
it-
to the moon with an aluminum foil suit on. It doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like they put on the full body lead suit for the X-ray of your tooth.
Yeah.
And yet you're right. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
A little tin foil, you're fine. The exterior of the lunar module.
Yeah.
They said it looked like it was crepe paper. Or, somebody, a couple guys in high school,
Right.
built it.
Right.
Who knows?
We
But
we won't know. Not
yeah, they're
until
not,
they tell us.
Not until they tell us. But again, fascinating subject. I mean, So the moon, they say, unlike the sun, we just think this is just this big heaving heat ball of plasma, which kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
right? But you look at the moon, you always see the light side facing the Earth.
Right.
Kind of an anomaly. Don't you think that's kind of weird?
Yeah.
They tell everything spinning
particularly-
around and
I
moving
mean,
around, and
yeah,
yet
I mean,
this thing's
we're
just...
told the moon has no light of its own. So then, of course, that light side is refractive light from the sun.
I'm
we're
glad
told.
I'm glad you bring that up, because there's a lot of stories about how the moon came into being and what its purpose is.
Mhm.
Some of us who've researched this quite a lot, where you have a school of thought where the moon gets its illumination from the sun.
Yeah, because that's what I was told.
That's what you were told. Yeah.
Right.
When you think about that, think about it with common sense, and I don't mean to bash your your opinion.
Oh,
But
my supply
what-
wanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here we have the moon just out here in space.
Right.
And supposedly the sunlight is illuminating that.
Mhm.
Yet nothing around it is illuminated, and nothing on the way there is illuminated.
Mhm.
I mean, light doesn't just appear on a shiny object in the distance. It may appear brighter,
Yeah.
but in contrast, but yet there couldn't just be just blackness around it.
Yeah.
It's just the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So there's a school of thought that the moon is self-illuminating.
Okay.
It's the night light,
Okay.
I mean, if you were God
Yeah.
and you're putting together this beautiful place,
Right.
okay, we have the earth.
Yeah.
We need sunlight
Yeah.
to provide life, plants,
Right.
make it beautiful. And then, man needs to rest.
Yeah.
Each day.
Yeah. Circadian rhythms, blah blah blah. Clearly thought out.
Genius.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't you can't even fathom, the intellectual level of all this. This is God.
Yep.
The creation in the 12th dimension. So the moon is there as our nightlight, self-illuminating, and a very interesting thing. And I've actually experimented with this, and I believe it's true.
Mhm.
You go out
on
on the moon.
On the moon itself.
On the moon itself, yeah. Well, I had to do the experimentation from the Earth.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
if
that's
I could,
where you've been all these
exactly.
years.
Yeah. Well, the claimed, supposedly from the Earth. Wow,
Yeah.
I keep popping here.
That's okay. It's
So,
a pop show.
so
we
I
can find some
trying
pop,
to get my
pop rocks on the moon.
trying to get my. I don't even forgot my point, but no, the point
you
here
went
is
you were talking about the dark side
Yeah,
of the
no, no,
moon
yeah,
and the
yeah,
light
yeah,
side of the moon and self-illuminated and all that.
so if you go out at night
Mm-hmm.
and you stand in the moonlight, dancing in the moonlight,
Yes. King Harvest.
and then you go underneath like a tree where the moonlight is blocked, you're kind of shed from the light, yet you're still outside.
yeah.
It's colder. The air, the feeling is colder in the moonlight than in the shade in the moonlight. So I believe this is cold light. I
Okay.
mean, just brilliant. However it's being made. Self-illuminating cold light. Because it's colder in the moonlight than not in the moonlight. That's just an observation.
I see
so,
that.
So do that sometime. Try it out. It's very subtle. It's a couple degrees, but it makes a difference.
But that's measurable.
It's measurable, it's quantifiable, and it's an observation that you can actually do right here. So the question is, why? So you can only deduce maybe the reason why.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that direct cold light. It's unlike anything that we really have, here on Earth.
Yeah.
It's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Now, this brings us, to the more obvious. There's a light side and a dark side.
Yes.
I
Thank you,
mean,
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd sang about it. What is on the dark side? Why does the moon only face us as it, as it moves around?
And really, is the dark side always the dark side?
Is it always dark?
Yeah.
What's there?
Right. Are
We
we
don't know.
only literally looking at the very same face of the moon every time we see the moon? Or is it turning, rotating, and
yeah.
showing us different parts, different angles?
I've taken a lot of pictures of the moon, and it always seems to be just looks the same.
Yeah.
The same orientations of the craters. The weird thing that I don't understand is you can go out on any given night and you have to look for it. It's not like it's here one night and then right here and right here. Even in one night, it's here and then it's over here.
Yeah.
It's like it's amazing, and they tell us it's on this tractable rotation, but yet I don't see much rhyme or reason to it. Of course, I'm not an astrologer.
We know that, for example, when you go out in the backyard and you're looking for the moon, and you look here, you look there, and then you find it over here, that's your experience. So, we can dissect this all day long and see what the scientists tell us about, rotational pull and, this and that and magnetic energy. But the bottom line is, where the hell is the moon?
Right.
A lot of
behind
times
the house.
Right. A lot of times, that's my question. Where the hell's the moon?
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah.
And you can't always see it. Some nights, it's not clear.
Yeah.
We'll get to the stars
And other
because
nights it is glowing through the clouds.
right.
The clouds at night. So what is that glow?
And if you look closely, you can see clouds in front of the moon, but I've seen clouds behind the moon.
And are they illuminated?
Well, I mean, you could just tell. You can
'Cause
you
of
can look up
dimension.
any pictures of the moon, and same for the sun.
Yeah.
How do they have a picture where clouds are behind?
Yeah,
if it's that
that's
far
always,
off.
Yeah, that's always been interesting.
Okay, well, and of course, someone's going to say, "Oh, well, that's just the way the picture is. It's an illusion." Well, there's a heck of a lot of illusions because we're not even scratched the surface on talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But our eyes have been deceived if this is the case, and
Yeah.
I'd like to think that my
Illusion and collusion.
eyes. Notice they rhyme, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the other thing about the moon is not too particularly well known, but some feel that it's almost like a satellite. It's an artificial entity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not maybe like a fire pit like the sun, but it's actually an object. An object that could have been manufactured, I don't know by who,
Right.
somewhere else,
Yep.
possibly made, and some people think that it was hollowed out or it was like a big, thin, artificial object.
Thing.
And thing. I mean, I don't know even what to
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
Is it a planet? It's more like a satellite.
Yeah.
And that it was actually towed into our orbit.
Yeah.
Meaning it was made somewhere else and then brought here.
Space junk.
Yeah, who knows?
Or
And
or
then-
programmable space junk.
And if you want to spend a whole bunch of time, you can see just every type of story about the moon. But I've heard that some people think, or they say that when something hits it, it sounds like a gong. So it's metal.
Yeah.
And that it has this reverberation possible.
Yeah.
If something lands on it, I don't know. They say we went to the moon. It's nice to think that we did that.
1969.
But we still really don't know any more than we did than when they went there.
Right.
In
Yet NASA frequently makes mistakes by saying that, yes, now because of this technology, we'll now be able to go to the moon. We'll be able to go here. Well, wait a minute. Didn't you?
yeah,
Or did you?
they say that they've lost the
Technology, yeah.
to go to the moon in the capacity that we went before, and yet we know that they just sent something to Mars.
Yeah.
I'm still scratching my head how they got something to Mars, and with all that technology, why they couldn't put an external camera on this thing that went to Mars
Yeah.
and show us the journey there.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe even show us what it looks like landing. And I'm not
Right.
talking about the CGI fake, like this is what it's going to look like. Because if you go to a lot of news stories, they pre-port, they actually have an animated or, like a film clip.
Right.
But it's not real.
Right.
It's all made up.
Yeah.
in a
Well, I
computer.
always wondered. Okay, so they brought back these images of landing on on Mars and all that stuff.
Sure.
From
Well, we have images
how
from the
many
moon, too.
hundreds of millions of miles away. Yet
I don't even have that in my
Yet I
notes.
can't get a cell phone signal downtown. So I'm really at a loss with this.
Yeah, and that's just it. And like they'll have like the camera at the bank,
Mm-hmm.
or some of these cameras,
Yeah.
and you can't see anything with it. I mean, they're security cameras. It's like you can't see anything.
Yeah, especially
Yet-
at night.
Right, exactly. Yet they can say, "Here's a picture on the moon. It's pretty clear, but it kind of looks like Arizona desert."
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, and oh, by the way, there's you can't see any stars up here.
you can't.
Yeah, I'm
for some
supposed
reason.
To, supposed to.
Well, the
swallow
astronauts said that.
Yeah.
And I should put a little pause here. You see kind of like where we're going with this. I am a very, very skeptical individual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I question things maybe that I shouldn't even question, but I have more questions here than just about any subject. And I don't mean to
No.
be,
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%.
You sure? Because I
yeah.
mean, I don't want to upset your upbringing, because some of us
No.
have,
No,
thoughts?
no. You want to upset my upbringing? Make all the cars electric. Then you're really going to upset my upbringing.
I think you already upsetted your own upbringing. So
Yeah, exactly. So, but also on the same lines of what you're talking about, hitting it and it goes ding, 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 and all that. But there
Yeah.
are people that also believe that the Earth came from the moon, and that the moon actually birthed the Earth. Okay.
birthed the Earth.
Yes, birthed the Earth,
Yeah.
and that since it was here first, and it just said, "Here you go," and there are people that are following that train of thought too.
Again, does that make sense? I mean,
It doesn't make sense to me,
even-
but I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah,
There are
well,
also
I-
people that'll tell you that there was once an advanced civilization of people that lived on that rock
Sure.
that's out there.
and reports that people, some of this stuff I know is disinformation.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of dis and misinformation on the moon travel. It's everywhere. In fact, to get the real true story, I don't know if I don't know if it even exists somewhere, because I mean, you can go to the normal backstory for we did go to the moon and this and that, but I've heard other people say when they got to the moon, they saw huge ships
Right.
there.
Mhm.
So we don't want to discount the fact that there could be life on the moon. There could be life on Mars.
Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of the disclosure that's going on right now. If in fact there is life out there, they're slowly seeping it out, so that way we're not shocked
Right.
when we do find out there is this. Now, the flip side is the disclosure project, and everything that they've been telling us is to get us to believe something that's not true. And in fact, we know that the Earth, that's all there is. There is a God. There's no aliens, and that all this is just hooey.
Yeah, and if you're looking at a timeline, you would have to say to yourself, okay, well, listen, the other stuff out there, okay, that has projected for a longer period of time, a further distance into open space.
Right.
If we have our level of intelligence and knowledge here on this planet, shouldn't there be more advanced knowledge in life?
It'd be scary that we're the top of the food chain out
Yeah,
there.
it really would, because all that stuff out there, Jupiter, all
This is what they say.
That's been around, and shooting out that way,
Mm-hmm.
way far ahead of us. Okay?
Yeah.
So if we've advanced to the level that we've advanced to,
Mm-hmm.
it's questionable.
Yeah.
But where we are today, it would make sense to me that somewhere else out there is someone that's far more advanced than we are.
We've come a really long way within the last 100 years. Think about where we were 100 years ago. Not everybody had a car.
Right.
Telephones were just coming into being.
Yeah.
Movies just in its infancy.
Yeah, it's just been an
radio, just
explosion of
computers.
technology.
Oh, it's just it's and it's a little scary. And we will talk about AI.
Yeah.
Not in this show, but it is all a part of this, and it's a dangerous trend where
It
we're
is.
going, because we could actually create artificial intelligence that could maybe take control of us. And you'd say, well, how could that be? Well, you
look
don't
at
know.
Congress. I mean,
That is pretty artificial.
we've made it. Isn't it interesting that
What we've created.
that a what is it a gathering of baboons is called a Congress?
Again,
it's amazing.
There is no coincidence.
Right,
There's
right.
a reason for everything.
Do you know what a gathering of crows is called?
Oh wait, I know this. I don't want to sound stupid.
It's,
No, go.
It's called a murder.
Oh, it's a murder. No, I would have never
Murder
guessed
of
that.
crows. Yeah, it's interesting how and where we get these words from, but the words come from somewhere.
The English language is just so beautiful.
Right. Yeah, absolutely spectacular, right? So
Yeah.
so back to the moon, right?
Yeah.
So in your own personal thinking, you're thinking that there is a possibility that the moon it could be self-illuminated.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, it's
And who am I to say that it's not? Or
Right.
anybody else, really? Because have you been there? A
No.
friend of mine used to say, you know why my book's better than your book? And I would say, why? And he'd say, because I have one. So, we look at all of this stuff and we just don't have, especially, average Joes
Right.
like you and I that have never been there. We've talked about this before. That personal experience is so much more credible
right.
when you can say, yeah, I've been there. And I touched that, and I did this, and I saw that.
And more than likely, we're not going to have that opportunity. So
No.
again, we just speculate. In fact, the moon could be much like the posters you buy at Spencer's. The glow in the dark.
Yeah,
Exactly. It just when it's dark, they just glow. They
Yeah.
have it self-illuminating, and there's no light really,
Right.
particularly that has to. I guess you have a black light, but
right. Well, yeah,
but-
and what you just hit on something very important because there may be some sort of luminescent material
yeah,
that is absorbing the light of the sun throughout the day,
it could be.
and then at night, it just like the old watches,
It's like a big glow stick.
Yeah, exactly, and it lasts for a certain
In
amount
fact,
of time.
this
and then it
might be
has to
the
get recharged.
oldest rave party known to man. No, seriously. That's where they got Dancing in the Moonlight from.
Yeah.
I mean, it's magical.
Yeah.
It's mysterious. It's mystical. I mean, it's just
And it depends on where you are too in the geographical regions of the planet. Because,
Right.
for example, when I lived in Florida, you could go outside at midnight and read a newspaper.
right.
It was much brighter in the nighttime than further north.
Sure.
Where you go outside and you
Experience 23 hours of darkness
Yeah,
in certain places.
exactly.
At least
Yeah,
that's what they
or
tell
you
us.
just you drop your car keys next to your car at night and you end up on your hands and knees feeling around to find them.
That's why you need the self-illuminating car keys.
thing. The moon key.
Yeah, the moon key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the
Well-
relationship now between sun and moon.
And there's so much more to the moon and more interesting topics and discussion than the sun. I mean, obviously you can talk about the sun, the sun god Ra and the sun worshippers and stuff, but we've done that in previous shows and we've never really discussed the moon too much. But there's one more thing that I want to hit before we get to the stars, and then we'll tie them all together.
Right.
The
Was that
on
the
the
sound
way
of the moon? Did I just hear
Yes,
the
that
moon?
was. Yeah, that was me hitting the moon, and it sounded like a hitting a trash can. Bang. The on the way to the moon. Funny thing.
Funny happening on the way to the
yeah,
moon,
which
yeah.
is a interesting documentary.
Yeah.
Check that out if you haven't. But there's these Van Allen belts,
Yeah.
which is radiation belts.
Yeah.
And they span
Severe radiation.
severe. I mean, this is what they say. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, meanwhile, they paint these radiation belts, swirling with all this radiation, and then there's meteors and all this stuff flying around, and oh my God, it seems like it's. But yeah, we just happened to get this little thing and just moved it all through there, all the way to Mars,
Right.
without any collision or incidents.
Right.
It just, I don't know. It just seems so like a fantasy.
Yeah.
But specifically, to go through these Van Allen belts would be very harmful to a human.
Absolutely.
So how did we get there? If these Van Allen belts have been identified, and we know the tinfoil on the outside of the lunar capsule
Right.
can only do so much,
Right.
maybe as a reflective or whatever.
Might be a little hard to find Wi-Fi, but other than that, yeah, I can't see it protecting you from the Van Allen belts.
Yeah. Well, you'd think you'd get decent Wi-Fi, but maybe not. I mean, because you have all the satellites out there
Yeah.
flying around. And
Yeah.
again, some people say satellites aren't what you think.
Yeah.
In fact, some people have gone as far to say that all the satellites are technically not real, and that everything that we're that's done on a on a non-cable frequency
Yeah.
is just all GPS related.
Yeah.
Okay, so all all transmissions,
Yeah.
electrical,
Yeah.
are just base to base.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily going way up in the sky, hitting a satellite and coming back down.
Right.
I hope I was clear with all that. So anything else to add to the moon?
Well, the powers that the moon holds are extensive compared to the sun. Whereas, the sun's providing light and heat and that kind of stuff and energy and fuel for everyone. But the moon has some control issues and doing things from changing the tides to the cycles that women have to deal with each and every month.
If in fact the moon, because of its close proximity, the size and its effect on us, if it does have effect on the seasons, menstrual cycles, gravitational pull,
Right.
or relationship, it would manifest within us very strongly. And in fact, a lot of spiritual people who spend a lot of time in the esoteric world, connect to the moon.
Right.
I mean, it's a very important thing, more so than the sun.
Yeah.
The sun's almost kind of taken for granted, but the moon is more mysterious, and it possesses more questions.
Yeah, and it also possesses, masculine and feminine qualities. There's a moon god, there's a moon goddess.
Right.
And
then the other thing is the yin yang.
Yes.
So you have the sun and the moon,
Right.
light, dark,
Right.
kind of like,
Right.
not that it's a direct comparison, but you do have the hot source and then the cool source. And obviously the sun and the moon are like a yin and yang,
Right.
Give and take, all part of one process. Can't have one without the other, so to speak, at least
Right.
as far as what we can deduce.
Right. And then we also have the aspects that we see, visual aspects of the moon. There's the crescent moon, there's the full moon, there's all the different
Right.
styles of moon. Then there's the harvest moon, there's the super moon, there's the moon pie.
Blue moon.
Yeah, I love moon pies. Moon pies are
blood
amazing.
moon.
Yeah, the blood moon. And then there's the sun.
Right.
Occasionally an eclipse here and there. Okay.
And there's also the moon room in 239 in the Kubrick movie The Shining. So
that's right.
again, this is hidden breadcrumbs.
Wendy didn't go there, did she?
No.
Yeah, she stayed away from
Yeah,
it.
she didn't, but the little boy did, Danny.
Yeah.
Very interesting and
Was
very
that the-
telling is where he's playing on the carpet.
Red room.
And the ball comes up and
Yeah.
he stands up and on his shirt says Apollo 11.
Mhm.
And you could see like this is the Apollo blasting off, and then it goes to the moon room.
Yeah.
And the moon room is where possibly, hey, listen, it could have all just been filmed in a studio with Kubrick, and we're not gonna. We could do a whole show on that, but we're
what
not.
a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But just if
Yeah.
you see A Space Odyssey 2001,
Yeah.
he uses front screen projection. I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
it's called, front or rear screen projection. It's a type of way where you can film things, layer it so that way it looks like there's depth to it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. The technique hadn't really been used before, but they were saying a lot of the film and photographs that were taken on the moon.
Yeah.
And listen, we could sit here and tell you, there's so many different anomalies as far as light patterns of stuff on the moon,
Sure.
inconsistencies with flags, pictures that don't make sense.
Yeah.
There's no stars.
Yeah.
The fact that every
7-Eleven
picture
that's right on the corner.
that was a dead giveaway, And in 2018, I think it was a Starbucks now, but.
Right.
So, because it's costing more money.
Yeah,
You
but I'm
might as well
sorry
get a
for
better-
throwing in the humor, but it's taken away from the severity of what you're saying
No,
because
no,
this
no.
is a serious subject.
Well-
I mean, there are a lot of anomalies. There's a lot of things that just don't add up. I remember watching this thing, 1969,
Yeah.
at my dad's friend's house, and watching it live on TV, supposedly, and just how magical it was for me at that age to see something like that.
And they never told you at the time that it was a film of a film.
Yeah,
So it wasn't a direct feed.
right,
So someone was controlling the feeds.
right.
I just think there's a lot more to the story, and I could really, I mean, if everything, like you can look at the guy named Grissom, who basically was coming out and saying this space program is a mess. I can't imagine anything getting even out of close to Earth's orbit.
Yeah, out of Titusville, much less out of the orbit.
And he burned up in a rocket with
Yeah.
2 other guys.
Imagine that.
Tragic. So, and that doesn't make sense. And then the other thing is, this is really a little bit off subject, but I think people find it interesting. Remember that Challenger that went up there and it blew up?
Yeah, watch
This wasn't, so this was after the fact in the 80s. Crazy thing is, we could go to the moon in these Apollo spacecrafts, yet 20 years later, we were having trouble leaving Earth's atmosphere, and all we were doing was flying around, just a couple 100 miles up.
Right.
Doesn't really make sense.
Not to mention, I mean, I don't know. We're just talking. That's all we're doing.
Well, we're not to be disingenuous to the people.
Yeah, and we're not speculating. We're just talking. So just quickly, because we have a couple more things we want to get to. But I watched the broadcast of the Challenger. Okay. And that awful moment. But I think to myself at that time, these things are made to go into outer space,
right?
Through radiation, through meteor fields, through the probability of getting struck by something is vast. The construction process of these ships, or capsules, whatever you want to call them, has to be incredibly powerful. So when something tragic like that happens, why doesn't the capsule just fall down into the water and everybody get out and go home? I don't understand how it could have just disintegrated like that.
Well, 3 quick things about that, and then we'll move on. One, the film changed right before you saw the explosion, so that's a red flag right there.
Okay.
So just watch it; you'll see it go up, 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 and then all of a sudden, a close-up comes, and then you see the explosion. That's one. Okay. 2.
Yeah.
After it exploded, they got the reaction of the people in the stands.
Yeah.
They didn't look alarmed. They were just looking up there like, hey, what's going on? Like almost like you couldn't see it any longer. It got out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of weird. And then the third most telling thing is they found all these people alive. A couple of them have twin brothers and sisters, supposedly. There was one guy that didn't even hide. It's his name, and he's a professor at some college, 30 years later.
Wow.
Listen, just if you want to go look it up, but Christine McAuliffe still might be alive. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing where, we talk about NASA, never a straight answer.
As many times as I've heard,
it's still funny.
It's still funny. Yeah.
So what's the agenda? What are they trying to tell us or not tell us? And who's behind this? And it has to be at the highest level because this stuff is the most expensive. I mean, put a space rocket in out there going to the moon.
Yeah.
That's a huge undertaking.
Sure.
You're going to have some government approval, like our friend Elon.
Yeah.
With SpaceX.
Yep.
So we should probably hit the stars.
Let's do that.
Unless there's anything. I mean, we could talk about the moon.
No, I mean, I just wanted to just real quickly just touch on the fact that there were spiritual meanings to these bodies way back when.
Oh yeah.
And those spiritual meanings were critical in every society and in every religion, and we always looked at the sun as the giver of life, and we always knew that there were cycles throughout the year. There's the solstice, that there's the winter solstice, there's the summer solstice, there's the equinox, there's there's so many things that take place
The
with
autumnal
these,
equinox.
and
with
the
the vernal.
celestial bodies, and I think it's important that we give some credit to the ancients for providing us with some guidelines for modern science to have taken over and said, okay, well, these guys weren't all so crazy after all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at we've talked about the pyramids. Look at Stonehenge and the alignment that takes place there. Look at Machu Picchu, right, in Peru, and what takes place there. And look at the things that the Mayans and the Incas and all of these people left behind that were all related, to the stars.
All they had was that.
Right.
I mean, they didn't. There wasn't much else.
No, that was
You
it.
just
And
looked up to the skies, and cultures lived, breathed, experienced this.
Right.
And it was a huge part of it. As you said, yeah, well, and I don't believe it's much different today.
No.
It's just that we're consumed with so much else.
Right.
And
so,
also science has come in and put their fingerprint on it and said this is the way it is, when in fact it probably has a greater meaning to us than we
no
realize.
doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they're looking
We're at
at
one
this,
with all this.
Yeah, they're looking at this sun, okay, that they've named the sun.
The sun.
Okay, this Son of God.
It really
and
is.
and the power that's within it, behind it, and before it. Okay, and it truly is a star.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
And so much closer to us than all of the other luminaries that are out
Right.
there. Okay, and it is the single most critical thing. Without the sun, there would be no life here. Period.
Right.
That's all there is to it. So these other stars that are out there that they've named, not only the ancients, but the modern science, they're discovering stuff every day.
Other than Orions and the Pleiades and all this stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
right, exactly. So you look out there, and science is able to actually determine the life of a star, and
Okay.
the process of the life of that star.
Well, perfect timing, because we could ask, what is a star?
Yeah, so
right?
that's where I'm at right now, and I know that you have
Wow.
a veritable plethora of
Oh,
answers.
look at you throwing words back at me. Well, stars, and we're not talking about celebrity stars. We're talking
Yeah.
about the real stars in the sky.
Yeah.
Magical. I mean, they're just amazing.
Yes.
Looking at them last night, too.
Yes, the twinkle.
But the twinkle. Little star. They're astrological objects, luminous spheroids of plasma,
Mhm.
again. And again, the sun and everything else is basically a star, too. You
Right.
know,
And so are we. We're made out of star stuff.
some of us, yeah.
Yeah.
And star, what is it? Stardust
Yes.
and puppy dog tails.
Yeah,
And what
that.
else? Okay,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
all those special things.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is what makes up, the constellations and asterisms and everything. All stars are, at least what we can see
Yeah.
visibly. All these stars from the universe are pretty much in our Milky Way galaxy.
Mhm.
And again, I have no idea how this all came about, but supposedly there's galaxies, and they called this one the Milky Way, and then they made a
and
delicious
last
candy bar
I
from
heard
it.
the last I heard, there's 350 billion galaxies.
As if
out
there wasn't enough, right? Yeah.
Right, which
Just-
is basically enough particles of sand to fill a dump truck.
You can make your head spin, because, when you think about 93 million miles away is the sun, and then
Yeah.
how many galaxies and millions in this, and
right.
and they'll tell you that, of course, there's life, because with all these different galaxies and possible planets and stars,
Yeah.
why wouldn't there be?
Yeah.
That kind of goes against a lot of, some believe that this is all there is,
Yeah.
and that we are the center.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Copernicus in a second. We'll finish up with the stars.
Yeah. I just
But-
want to tell you this real quick. This is interesting because it sort of ties into what we were doing before. The word pastor
Mm.
is a group word, or however we look at it, of pater, which is father,
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
and star. So
pastor.
yeah, pastor. Okay, so pastor. Now a minister is a combination of moon star.
Wow.
Yeah. So not a lot of people know that.
No.
So when you're a pastor,
Yeah.
patera in Greek there's a word for father, pater
Father
in,
star.
in Latin. Okay.
Wow.
It's that father star and then moon star, So I just wanted to stick that in there real quick. Go ahead. Sorry.
Most stars, as I was saying, are not visible. Okay, they're invisible to the naked eye. But what's amazing is how many stars we can see, and then with the aid of a telescope. And you've talked about the Vatican having more telescopes than other people, so there's a connection. Like, why?
Right.
Why?
It's an obsession.
Yeah, it's an obsession, but there might be more backstory to that. But some people think that the stars are far, far, far away planets, and then this is supposedly the light source from them from hundreds, if not thousands, and maybe even million of years ago. Kind of fantastical to even think about that.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
Right. and then something about how they're the gravitational collapse of a gaseous nebula.
Yeah.
So there's another thing. Science says, oh, it's the gravitational collapse of gaseous nebula.
Yeah.
What?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
How did you get to that?
You could have said, blah, 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 cupcake, and I
Yeah.
might have understood it better because, the stuff inside a cupcake, is sometimes gaseous nebula.
Yes, it is. But the thing that's really critical here is mankind's obsession with the stars and with the
yeah.
celestial bodies. The word planet also comes from the Greek planetos, meaning wanderer. So the word planet literally means wanderer.
It is wanderer, and if you look at the word planet, take the T off, what do you have?
Plane.
Plane.
Yes.
So they didn't have to go far to go from, just this plane, which is obviously a flat type structure,
Right.
into planet,
Right.
which is the swirling ball, speeding along at how fast
Yeah,
we are.
260,000 miles per hour or something like that.
I don't-
Which is interesting because the speed of information within the human body, I think, is actually the same speed that we're traveling through space with.
Supposedly, but I don't feel it. I don't feel movement at all. And believe me, I'm very sensitive to heights and also movement.
Yeah.
I don't like going on some of those rides, that
Right.
everybody.
I'm not gonna do it.
It's
No, not me.
no, it's an uncomfortable feeling, and some people love it.
Yeah.
But I tell you this: if the Earth was uneasy, I would not like that. I don't think most people would. You could probably pretty much confidently say that 100 people out of 100 people do not enjoy earthquakes because it's the most unsettling feeling to know that the earth below you is just moving.
Yep.
It's completely foreign to us.
Yeah.
So think about that.
It's our foundation. It's the very foundation of everything that we are.
Right.
Not only our bodies, but our buildings and everything are tied to the earth, and we don't want it moving.
Right. You brought up a great connection before, and stars, they've manifested into everything. You have football stars, celebrity stars, singing stars, Ringo Starr. Everything's a star. Everything's a star,
Exactly.
and the meaning is just it's almost become a huge part of our culture.
Yeah.
And people write about stars, but it's very much in our nature.
Yeah.
It's also talked about through mythology. It's talked about in the Bible. And astrology is basically the study of stars, and it's extensive. I mean, there's astrologists and the whole the figuring out your sign, your astrological sign, and all
Right.
this stuff. This
and how
is
it
all,
correlates with your lifestyle.
and the fact is,
everything.
if you were born on a certain day in a month, that your astrological sign predicts something about you.
Mm-hmm.
So some people say, "Hey, this is all," and this was really big, came about in the '60s, and I'd still say a lot of people still kind of subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
astrotheology.
There you go.
Which is the very foundation for so many world religions.
Right. So this guy, Nicholas Copernicus, came around the 1500s and
Copernicus.
kind of ruined it for a lot of people who thought maybe we had it all figured out. But he's like, no. Here, listen me out, okay?
Right.
Listen to this. The sun
Yeah.
is the center
Yeah.
of the universe, not the Earth.
Yeah.
And he turned everything upside down and said, you know what? You're insignificant. You're just a planet.
Right.
And you're moving around in concert with all these other
It ain't all about
planets
you.
and stars. It ain't all about you. And that really takes God out of the equation.
Right.
Because then that kind of takes the Earth-centric idea that we're alone here.
Yeah.
And that we are all we are.
Yeah.
And I still haven't seen Alien. I've seen UFOs,
Yeah.
at least what we thought, but I still haven't seen an alien. Until I see an alien or some,
Or you may not even know.
Land on the
you
White
may not
House
even know
lawn.
that you see one.
you may be one, and I don't know that.
Yeah.
But if you are, just don't suck out my brain before the end of the show,
No, I've
because that's all I'm
already
worried
had
about.
breakfast this morning.
It's really good to know. An unhungry alien.
Yeah.
Science has just come in 1500s. This guy basically came out with these theories,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I can
goes
see him like with a New York accent though. You know, hey, you guys got this all wrong. You know, I mean, I guess because the
Love
whole
it.
Copernicus thing. You know,
And you're driving in a taxi while he's telling you this.
right? Exactly. It's got to be a
Is that-
checker cab.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he got himself in a whole bunch of trouble for that, didn't he?
Well, yeah. But hats off to him, the fact that, he came out and kind of went against the grain, because sometimes we don't learn anything or we don't grow.
Right.
Unfortunately, this might have been completely the opposite way. It might have been disinformation. But then again, maybe he's brilliant.
Yep.
And how he ever deduced this stuff, figured it out with his slide rule and his little compass.
Right.
I
and
have
the
no
model,
idea.
there was a little model.
He had a
thingy
little
that
model.
they
And
do,
yeah. So, and he didn't even have a 3D printer or anything.
No.
Either, so he really had to work
He had
with
to build his own props.
Exactly.
But one more fascinating thing about this, while we're on this same subject, is how the universe is designed in a schematic of opposites. Light and dark, high and low. Good and bad, all that stuff. The polarity that's in place out there. We see the stars, right? But we don't pay attention to the blank space.
All the
Space
stuff
itself.
between.
Right, which
Yeah.
is stuff. It's not nothing that's there.
And it's
the
not
stuff
dark
that's-
matter
Right,
or
it's the
nothing.
stuff that's holding everything else together. And so that's why, and I've mentioned this before, the ancients many, 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 many years ago used to think when they'd look up at the skies and they'd see the stars, that actually the veil being pierced. And that was light that was shining in from beyond the veil, beyond the heavens, beyond the sky. And that's where it was all light, because everything, in the beginning there was light. See,
this is where I used to be very scientific minded, going up through schools.
Right.
I went to a lot of years of schools, including
medical school.
advanced schooling past college, and maybe too many years.
Yeah.
Figured I'm not sure if I was brainwashed, because I kind of unlatched myself from thinking that this all was proven and the science was all correct, to questioning it. And then after having read the Bible, which I recommend to everybody, I don't care who you are or whether you're religious or not.
No, and keep an open mind when you're reading it too. Keep in mind that there's a lot of allegory, a lot of metaphysical meanings that are in there.
There's nothing wrong with being open-minded. Seriously, this is a time where, if you're open-minded and you want information to come to you, I believe the correct information will find its way to you, because you're putting out that energy, you're putting out that vibration, and you're like a magnet. You will attract the correct information, and you must trust yourself that you don't have to look terribly hard or spend day and night looking. The mere fact that you consciously want to know, and that you've completely opened yourself up to new information, even though you may not give up your old school of thought, the fact is that you're trying to move in the right direction. So with this, it's amazing what can come to you, because so much points to the fact that maybe this is a flat earth of existence, and that the sun and the moon being the same size, they go around in a circle, and the fact that that day and night could be a lot more simple than the way it's been presented to us through science. Some people may not buy it, but then again, if you consider and open up exactly what ancient teachings have taught us pre-Copernicus, and the Bible certainly points to many teachings and talking about the four corners of the earth.
Right.
And you mentioned it yourself. You said something about how light from above is pierced through a veil.
Yeah, almost see it like a snow globe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And some of us believe that instead of the earth being a globe, the earth is a flat plane.
Yeah.
And that above it is the globe.
Yeah.
Or the firmament. And they talk about this in Genesis 1,
Right.
8 through
Exactly.
1:16.
Yeah.
The stars specifically are lights, luminescent light sources that come from above. And there might be waters above and waters below, as been written. But stars specifically are kind of like part of this huge firmament, and that is the sky.
Yeah.
And that the sun and the moon actually work in conjunction and are all part of it. And this brings me kind of to the point where, if you really look at it, the moon doesn't seem that far away.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's a couple thousand miles away. To
Yeah,
me,
you've
it's like you
seen-
can almost reach out and touch it.
Yeah, you've seen on the pictures of people standing on the beach and they put their finger and their thumb together and kind of stick it out and
Yeah.
and hold the moon while somebody
their
takes
hand.
somebody takes a picture of it.
Yeah.
And it looks as though you really could do that.
Yeah.
So if maybe perhaps in the future, if there are more Elon Musks out there that can build these machines to travel into these areas that the average Joe can't go, maybe
Right.
we'll have a better perspective of what's out there.
There's so much more to talk about, but I do want to make a few more quick points.
Sure.
Okay. So the sun, 93 million miles away.
Mm.
On a very, very hot day, you can go out. You can sit out on your deck or whatever. You can be on the sidewalk or a street.
Right.
And you feel like you're going to burn up.
Right.
The cement or the deck is so hot, you can't walk on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sit there for a few minutes, you're burning.
Right.
So, and how far away is the sun?
Yeah.
Okay.
93 million
So
miles.
move it even 1 mile closer. Think about a hot oven.
Yeah.
You couldn't even sense the heat
Right.
from a mile away.
Right.
But yet you stick your head in there,
Toast.
you're toast.
Yeah. Literally.
So I just, how can it be that hot? I mean, you don't leave your dog in the car because
Yeah.
you'll kill it
Right.
on a hot day.
Right.
93 million miles away.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah.
So when I look at the moon and I see the sun, and I know that the heat from the sun, and I see the moon, and I feel the coolness from the moon at night, and you can almost reach out and touch it. Some believe that the moon is just a couple thousand. It could be 3,000. It could be 30,000. I don't know, but it's not the 236. And certainly the sun, with the clouds behind it, there's no way. And if you look at pictures and the way the rays come down, it would be all parallel. And there's just too much proof that you see how the light source, it's almost like a flashlight, the light source spreads out.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have that if it was that far away.
Yeah.
Okay. It would just, everything would be illuminated almost the same.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come out like that.
Yeah.
I'd take a breath because I'm getting
No,
very
that's fine.
passionate about this.
No, it's fine. And you have to also wonder, like me, because I think of weird stuff, but what's behind the sun?
Exactly.
Going that way.
Yeah.
And are they all nice and lit up during the day
Right.
like we are,
There's one more thing that gives credence or evidence that maybe we are kind of living in a firmament because I don't see the curvature. They say that each mile it's 8 inches squared, which after a couple miles, I've been in a plane. I've driven across many lands. I've never seen the curvature. That's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you've seen it, and you look across a lake,
Yeah.
and you can actually
like
see the buildings.
Pontchartrain. They say that
Yeah.
if you start on one part of the bridge on Lake Pontchartrain in Louisiana, you can't see the horizon
Right.
from
Okay.
the other side of the bridge.
But
But is
there's-
that because of the bridge, or is it because of the horizon?
Yeah, and airplane pilots will tell you that they do not compensate for the curvature of the Earth. They just fly straight. They keep it on a flat, narrow course. So that tells you something. But one other.
But what if they're flying, and as they're flying, it's not them that's really moving,
It's
but
just the
it's the Earth that's turning, and they're see.
But
There's
then
just so much.
But then they could go up in the sky and then not have to. If the Earth is turning, then they barely need to fly,
right.
and they could just stay in the same place and then have the Earth move underneath them, which
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah, kind of like sticking your arm out the car window.
But there is one more item that's rarely talked about:
Here we go.
rainbows.
Ah,
Okay, so when you think about rainbows,
yes,
they're arched,
yes.
and it's this light.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get a rainbow, you need a reflective surface.
Mm.
What's reflecting the rainbow?
Mm.
So my thought is the
funny,
clear
I've
firmament.
never thought of this.
See, that's why I'm bringing it
You
up
got me
because
on this
no.
one.
But see, the rainbow is it's a beautiful arch,
Yeah,
and it's all the colors from the sun.
yeah,
So we know the sun is creating it, but it needs a reflective surface.
yeah.
So there's your firmament, and it's always arched and it's always big. And I could give you 3 or 4 other examples of why we possibly might be living on a flat Earth. I still not saying I'm a flat earther,
Yeah.
but we're talking So
Well,
a lot
no,
of people.
and there was a time when lead was safe too. So I mean,
Sure, they used to put it in paint.
right.
Hey,
So
lead paint's a
time
good idea.
passes and people do stuff. They talk about things. They experiment. They discover. They research, and then you find new information. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Right. I will mention this, that in Genesis 1:16, God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars.
Yeah.
So it's right there.
Yeah.
So we know that it's God's creation.
Yep.
Any way you slice it, and whether
Yep.
it was towed in or not,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing about you bring up Genesis, in the beginning, we read all that, and this is, and then there was light, right?
All of a sudden,
But it wasn't. The sun wasn't created for days later. So, what's that all about? That would be the light of consciousness.
wow.
So,
Mm-hmm.
without consciousness, nothing else would exist. So,
Well, we've pretty much determined that consciousness is the state of everything.
Right.
And without our active involvement, us consciously thinking about this,
Right.
everything we do may not happen. And again, we could discuss all this stuff, and it may be all kind of superfluous because all of this might be an illusion.
Right.
None of this might be real.
Right.
We might be living a dream, and we'll wake up when we're dead.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as Alan Watts so beautifully put, imagine going to sleep and never waking up. Now, imagine waking up
Yep.
after never having been to sleep.
Yeah, you always get that straight. I always mix
I
it up.
struggle with it.
No, well, yeah.
But it's fascinating to me because it's an on and off switch.
Mhm.
It's ones and zeros.
Yeah.
It's in and out. When you strike a match to light a match, the match isn't, creating the fire, so to speak. The fire is already there.
Right.
It's just coming from within to without, and then it returns back to within again.
Right.
So all of the stuff that we see, imagine what we don't see that's out there.
And that goes for all the space in between.
Yeah.
And we
then
think it's
fascinating-
nothing, but it's probably a lot of something.
Right. And the most fascinating part about all of this is it's experienced completely inside of our heads.
It's a scary
because
place
of our
to be.
senses.
Right.
Everything is experienced. You fly to the moon and back or wherever you want to go. You're doing it in your head.
I'd like, within our lifetime, to know the truth about the moon.
Yeah.
And I believe it will come out.
Yeah.
I would love it one day where they just say, well, we did go to the moon, and here's proof.
Yeah.
And everything that you've seen, easily explained.
Yeah.
And I would just be as happy as could be.
Yeah.
But if they come and say, guess what, Kennedy thought we could get there in 6 years, and
Right.
we did try to tape things together, and we used a little tin foil and
Yeah.
and put some tang on board. And
Yeah, it was
no,
embarrassing.
we really didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, fine, but why?
Right.
And then tell us the truth.
Yeah.
Somebody knows.
Yeah. And where did the
And-
money go that was supposed to be used to get you on the big
Follow
rock?
the money.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll hear that confession probably the same time we hear about the grassy knoll and everything else.
Right. Neil Armstrong passed away, and he was so tight-lipped
Yeah.
during his life. I mean, he came back from the moon. He
Right.
sat there in that interview like, Neil, can you wake up? I
Yeah.
mean, put a little energy in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it was okay. I think we saw stars. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I wish we had
So-
cell phones back then with cameras. That would have been nice.
Well,
to
guess what? They do
sneak a couple of
nowadays.
shots.
Right.
That nobody knew about.
Well, we could go on and on and on and
As
on.
we
Maybe
have.
As we have. Nothing can stop us now.
Not even the sun, the stars, and the
Or the
moon.
moon, or the moon, right.
Yeah. Hey,
Well,
this has been fun.
It has, and I never thought we could talk this long about this stuff. But
Yeah, this was cool. And you said at the beginning that about learning stuff.
yeah,
Because we always agree on things.
Well, I think
and,
we
I
learned.
learned a bunch of stuff from you today.
I've always learned stuff from you.
Yeah.
Always. It's always an enlightening experience, and I thank you for that.
Enlightening.
Yes, enlightening.
Yes.
Well, thank you, and it's been fun.
It's been awesome.
Great topic.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, take
Yep.
care. Bye.
You've been listening to Quantum Flow Radio. Email us online at quantumflowradio@gmail.com.